The Irish Museum of Modern Art was established in 1991 at the Royal Hospital Kilmainham in Dublin, one of the finest 17th century buildings in Ireland. The museum presents contemporary Irish and international art through its exhibitions, collection policy and artists' work programme. The Education and Community Programme at IMMA aims to address and serve as wide an audience as possible and is part of all aspects of museum activity. The Education and Community Department works with a large number of groups and individuals, developing projects which offer meaningful access to the museum's resources. Alongside tours, lectures and seminars, the department is involved in a range of innovative projects in both the education and community sectors.
You're the one that
IMMA's programme for schools and young people has progressed from locally based exploratory projects to a broad programme open to schools and centres nationwide. There are now 60 primary schools running IMMA-related classroom projects and 11 youth reach centres around the country working with the museum. In the last 5 years, close working relationships have been developed with locally based community groups and with the Family Resource Centre St Michael's Estate in Chicor in particular. An ongoing programme for older people continues to grow through workshop activity and at policy level. This is being developed nationally with Age and Opportunity and at European level with Eurolink Age. Each year the artist Liz McMahon works on a research project based in a local school. These projects are developed in close cooperation with a local teacher and IMMA's education department. The department gains valuable insights into the effectiveness of its programmes from these projects. These research projects in turn inform IMMA's wider education programme.
In our workshops here, apart from looking at what is being done by other people, the workshops here enable these children to do things for themselves. And of course this is a wonderful lesson in self-esteem, because art, there's no such thing as right or wrong. Okay, if you get a sum wrong, it's wrong, right? You answer your Irish question, it's wrong or it's right. So really, before you start to teach them anything, you must make them feel good about themselves. And through the years now here working in the gallery, I've seen that work. And where a child will categorically just insist that his GNU, we've been making GNUs, his GNU is a GNU, and nobody's going to tell him that a GNU doesn't have 5 legs. And then that's wonderful, because it frees up the child too. It gives him confidence to go on and face other things. I just feel that no art form ever taught a child or children to hate each other.
In responding to needs identified by schools, initiatives have been developed at both primary and post-primary level. Primary teachers can attend any one of the museum's summer and career development courses, then join in the annual classroom projects which link with the exhibition programme. This offers teachers ongoing support throughout the year.
Well, for the last 3 summers I've come. I did the clay course, and then for the last 2 years I've done the Child the Artist in the museum. I was working in inner city at the time, and I went from being a class teacher, if you like, to being a remedial teacher. And at that time we used clay. We did an entire school project. All the teachers in the school were involved, and I kind of coordinated it. That was the Anthony Gormley. That was the time that the project was based on the work of Anthony Gormley. Whereas when we did the school project on it, there was an incredible buzz in the place. The parents were in and out all the time. And then, you know, the parents then came to the Anthony Gormley exhibition. And I feel that now they have access to some place like this, which, you know, they wouldn't, like, prior to that, they wouldn't have felt that they could come to, you know, to some place like a museum, you know. I think when you have contact with people here, you see, they give you the confidence to be able to say that this is educationally sound, very, very, very sound. And it's a very, it built, I saw a huge cooperation developing between children.
The Education and Community Department runs regular Saturday morning workshops for children. Family group workshops are organised during holiday periods.
It was an obvious thing to do in the summer holidays and the Christmas holidays. It's one of those wonderful, rare things these days that's free, and you can do it as a family, which again is pretty rare. Again, I'm not a practical person. I'm not that creative person in visual sense or with my hands. So it was a great opportunity to do those sorts of things with the kids in a relatively formal atmosphere of a workshop. I was a bit nervous. I think some parents do get a bit nervous. They prefer to go off and have a cup of coffee while the kids get on with it. They think their stuff won't be good enough, you know. But I think the whole thing about working with the children, working cooperatively and collectively with the children and making something. For example, we did a thing with plaster of Paris where we did hands and faces and feet, and then we put them in a kind of box with all sorts of objects that were important to us from the house. Their mother wasn't there, so picture of her. They brought in little toys or things that they were keen on, and it made a wonderful kind of, I don't know what you call it, kind of a collage thing with all sorts of objects that we kept around the house for months afterwards, because it was very close to our lives. In the workshops, you're also brought up to see the pieces in the museum, in the gallery. They learn to see things from different angles, different messages, and see the depth and richness of art. So, I mean, I think they're very privileged, my kids. I think I only wish that this program could be for thousands of kids rather than obviously scores of kids, because I think it'll give them a kind of insight into things and into the world which I never had when I was growing up.
Each summer since 1993, a major project has taken place in the grounds surrounding the museum. It has involved over 1,000 Dublin children. The Tribal project was initiated by Wet Paint Arts and developed with the Education Department. It brought children from Coolock, Darndale, Ballymun, Ballyfermot, Hill Street and Pearse Street, together with local Inchicore children, and explored the potential of the site's natural resources.
The Youth Project got an offer being involved in the Tribal project, and for us it was a good opportunity for young people, because we would have a policy of trying to get young people out of the community and interacting with other groups, and the Tribal project itself had that valuable opportunity because it included very many different groups from different projects around the city. For us, in terms of working with, say, with young people, their attendance at, you know, a program on a regular basis is a perfect example of how something is perceived to be successful. So when we were involved, say, with IMMA in a particular program that went on for a period of time, the young people's involvement on a regular basis, meeting regularly and coming down, is one example of that. Also for young people, the end product is a very important aspect of a program, whereby they come down here, they get involved with an artist, they walk through a whole process of being involved in something. And the response from them in terms of, look, this is mine, you know, I can go home and I can show my auntie, my uncle, my father, my mother, you know, there's a whole sense of excitement there, and it also says something to them about their value and their ability to actually, you know, produce and be something that's special to them.
The Education Department is currently exploring ways of developing appropriate programmes for young people with learning difficulties. There is close collaboration with St Michael's House Research through its Fast Friends programme.
Well, we all came down to the museum and we met with Lisa Weir, and she was the artist who started to work with us. And it really went fine, and we had a tour of the museum, and that was a bit daunting for the group, all right, that hadn't been here before. And the Anthony Gormley exhibition was on at the time, and they really clued into that, and they could see it and
go walk around it and that type of thing. And it was him. He was using his body, and it was about the self. And they really caught on to that. And that's what we focused on then to start off with our theme. Concentration improved like enormously. Teamwork, all that type of thing just happened in the group. Like, a lot of people wouldn't believe that they come down here and work for 2 hours solid on a piece and enjoy it. The last piece of work we done was with the 2 groups brought together, which was like 20 trainees. And it became known as From One Heart to Another, because the journey from Prush Street to the museum, even though it's a very short distance, they had to get 2 buses and then 2 buses back. So it seemed very arduous. And sometimes the buses, like, it was either they were on the break or something at that time, and it took us time to get down. So the journey became quite significant. So for the last piece with the group, we decided to represent the journey, and with 2 figures cast from clay and plaster. And in one was IMMA and the streets around IMMA, and the other was Prush Street, streets around Prush Street, joining at the Phoenix Park, if you like. And that was the symbolism of the journey, the physical journey, also of the link between the 2 places. Nobody links people with learning difficulty in art, because they might say, oh, someone who has Down syndrome, oh, sure, they're very creative and they love it. But it's more than that. It's a way of to express themselves, and that was just the expression, the chance to express.
Following the Chairs and Self projects run in second-level schools, IMMA has undertaken a national pilot programme with 11 youth reach centres in Dublin, Edenderry, Mount Mellick, Monaghan and Youghal.
Well, our centre is in Youghal, County Cork, which I would think makes it the most distant group working with the museum. It's a 3-hour train journey when you get to Cork. It's a whole day's involved work to get up here, feeding people, stopping, going to the jacks, all kinds of stuff. You know, getting them back before it gets too dark so they don't get lost, all that kind of stuff. And for most of them, most of the people I work with never leave their own environment. 30 miles would be the most any of them would travel. So to come up to a place like this, to the city of Dublin alone, was great stuff. But on that level alone, it was very important, you know. And I thought it was, especially with Beyond the Pale, at that time, that's why I thought it was very important that we continue to work with it. Because we were definitely beyond the pale. We were miles and miles from anywhere. That's why Marie Barrett was a great choice of artist to have with us, because she came from Derry, which is a wall town. And Youghal is a wall town, and there are so few. And looking at the images, you know, that on their banner, I think you'd see it has that feel, you know, it has a medieval kind of a insular feel about it. And I thought I came across, for me, no, that was, and I think she picked up on that. I don't know if any other artist would have, you know, because she came from the same kind of environment, you know. And we had one individual, I think it's in the report we sent in, who said that he would hope one day to bring his children up here. You know, and that was the first time he'd ever came to a place like this. And he thought it was great. And it was free. You didn't have to pay to get in.
One of the longest running programmes at IMMA is for older people. It operates at local level with the Inchicore Active Retirement Association through a workshop and exhibition programme.
Art for me meant a brush, paint and paper. If I ever did any art, which I didn't do very much of, but this was a new facet of art. And that's what I found, that it was a kind of an eye-opener here. You saw art in different forms, even though it was still visual art. Nevertheless, it was a different technique, a different expression of the visual art. The modern art, to me, is an unknown area. But while it's unknown, it's like everything else. You know, I believe that life progresses and life changes, all areas of life. And I don't want to go too wide off your question, but no matter what you do in life, things change. Things change in the area of art, religion. So many changes have taken place in our experiences. And so what I'm really saying is that nothing is static, and nothing is static in art either. And I see myself as kind of open to new experiences. I think for myself anyway, you only recognise artistic endeavours or projects if they relate to something that you know yourself. Well, a value that comes to mind when you ask me that question is the relaxation that it offers me and the exploration of colour, learning about colour. But relaxation is important for me at this time of my life. I'm 70 today.
Happy birthday.
The programme for older people has developed at national level with the Age and Opportunity Organisation. IMMA runs an annual festival for older people in association with Age and Opportunity.
Well, we formed what we call a partnership with the museum here, and each year we meet and we discuss what the programme might be for the particular focus for each year. And it generally concentrates around May, and we hold the Maytime Festival of the Arts for older people. And the museum facilitates older people to come here in groups. They have special rates for them, they have exhibitions, they have opportunities to meet the Inchicore group, and sometimes some hands-on sort of artistic work perhaps themselves. Well, I think that you know, the work that's been done here has certainly taken the stuffiness out of the arts, you know, not with a capital A, you know, the arts sort of thing. And I think that it has opened up whole new fields of creativity for older people. I think that one wouldn't, you know, naturally connect them, older people and modern art. And still and all, we have evidence from the Inchicore group that in fact they're doing things that are quite, you know, in the contemporary mould, and that they can do it and do it well. And I think that a marriage between modern art and older people is an exciting thing to think of, because one would naturally connect older people with kind of tradition and reminiscence and that sort of thing. So kind of moving forward and thinking forward wouldn't be considered, you know, something that older people might do.
The most significant project at community level to date is Unspoken Truths. This brought two community development projects, the Family Resource Centre St Michael's Estate in Inchicore and the Lourdes Youth and Community Services Sean McDermott Street, together with artist Alva Murphy and IMMA, in a major collaborative project to explore women's lives in inner city Dublin.
Everybody's mother had a mantle at the time. The whole idea is really based on when we were young and remembering all these people. The Gerald Sweets there represents this woman that we used to go for her sweets because you weren't allowed to cross roads. She used to sell all the sweets in the window. And this bottle of Guinness here is the last woman that lived in Foley Street. And she wouldn't get out of Foley Street until they gave her a flat in Liberty House. So they knocked Foley Street down both sides of where she was living, and her house, like it was like a tenement, and her house was the only house that was standing. So we asked our family what could we represent, and he said a bottle of stout because she loved one.
IMMA's link to community development structures has been informed by the development of a close working relationship with the Family Resource Centre St Michael's Estate in Inchicore. A broad number of programmes for adults have been devised linking the Education Department, the Artists' Work Programme and exhibitions.
The museum says it is a participatory place, that when you come in you should be able to participate with what's going on in it. It should ask you questions and you can ask it questions. Well, for us at a community level in this area, we also feel that the museum has a responsibility to be participatory in the area. What I like about the Education Department is that it works systematically. I think it works with the same kind of principles that we work with in our projects in terms of community development. One where you believe
in people. You begin with that belief. We feel, and I've said it in a number of places, that the museum is just another room in our project. It's just another place, you know, it's just another part of our work. And I think that's a compliment to the institution, in that we, as a community struggling to make change from the bottom up, people who are disadvantaged, who aren't allowed to participate in any part of the society, is actually saying this institution is all right, we'll work with it, and we can make change through it. I think one good thing that has come about is that, and you've asked me about the relationship before, and I think it's important to the area that now the area has a representative on the board through me, and I think that is really important, and I think that's about social change. It was okay to come in and take part in programmes, it's okay to come in and help people develop programmes, it's okay to come in and use the facilities as a resource, but what's more important, it's better to be able to come in and be where the decisions are being made, and I think that's really important. And I think for 5 years only of its history, I think it is making history by somebody from the community being on a board.